Take a moment to think about the last time you felt stuck in life. Perhaps it was that promotion that just seemed out of reach, or that personal goal that kept slipping away despite your best efforts. If you're like most of people, your first instinct was probably to ask yourself, what more do I need? It's a natural response, isn't it? We live in a world that constantly tells us we're not enough. We're not successful enough, not wealthy enough, not accomplished enough. Every advertisement, every social media post, every motivational speaker seems to sell us the same message. Just add this one more thing to your life, and then you'll finally make it. But what if I told you that this fundamental assumption that success comes from adding more to our lives isn't just wrong, but it's actually what is holding you back from achieving your true potential? In this edition of Daily Masonic Progress, we're going to explore the Masonic secret to excellence, which is one of the most profound lessons hidden within Freemasonry. It's a lesson so powerful that once you truly understand it, it will transform how you approach every goal in your life. We're going to uncover the overlooked wisdom contained within the first degree that is absolutely revolutionary. We'll reveal the practical framework for achievement that puts modern productivity systems to shame, and I'll show you why the path to excellence isn't about adding more to your life, but about revealing the perfection that already lies within. And through this journey, I will share with you the Masonic secrets to excellence. This proven methodology has guided generations of Masons towards excellence, and it's as relevant today as it was 300 years ago. So think about the last time you faced a significant challenge in your life. Perhaps it was learning a new skill at work, improving a relationship, or developing a version of yourself. If you're like most men today, your first instinct was probably to ask, what do I need to add to my life to make this happen? And it's this instinct that runs deep in our contemporary world. When we want to advance our careers, we seek another certification. When we want to improve our fitness, we buy new equipment. When we want to become better leaders, we accumulate more management books. We've been conditioned to believe that every problem can be solved by adding something new to our lives. But think about Michelangelo's famous response when asked how he created his masterpiece, David. I simply removed everything that wasn't David. And this is the essence of our Masonic teaching that we're going to cover today. You see, the perfect form, whether it is in stone or in character, it doesn't emerge through addition, but through careful and intentional reduction. But here's where the profound wisdom of our craft offers a revolutionary perspective. Consider for a moment the rough ashlar sitting in the lodge. That crude stone contains within it every atom, every molecule, every essential element needed to become the perfect ashlar. The master craftsman doesn't need to add anything to transform it. And there's no amount of external decoration, no amount of cement render, no additional material that is going to make it perfect. And this insight fundamentally challenges how we approach personal development. Just as the perfect cube exists within every rough ashlar waiting to be revealed, so too does your highest potential already exist within you. The transformation isn't about acquiring more. It's about revealing what's already there by carefully removing what doesn't serve your ultimate purpose. It's this principle that applies universally. If you want to become a better leader, perhaps the path isn't about adding more management techniques, but about removing the fears and insecurities that hold you back from leading authentically. If you seek to improve your relationships, maybe the key isn't learning about more communication strategies, but removing the defensive habits and prejudices that prevent genuine connection. It's this fundamental truth about the reductive nature of personal transformation that leads us to a crucial question. If we already possess everything that we need for excellence, how do we approach the actual work of revealing it? Well, picture a man in his study late at night, surrounded by self-improvement books and productivity apps. Yet he's probably feeling more overwhelmed than ever. His desk calendar is packed with commitments, his phone buzzes constantly with notifications, and his to-do list seems to grow longer by the hour. And despite his best intentions to transform himself, he's burning the candle at both ends. He's racing towards exhaustion rather than excellence. And this is a scene that plays out in countless lives today. In our eagerness to improve ourselves, we often fall into the trap of trying to do everything at once. We attempt to simultaneously transform our careers, rebuild our health, strengthen our relationships, and deepen our spiritual lives, all while maintaining our daily responsibilities. And the result? Well, burnout, frustration, and often the abandonment of our noble aspirations. Think about Brother Benjamin Franklin, who famously divided his day into precise periods for activities. He understood that balanced progress requires balanced effort. He didn't try to become virtuous overnight, but worked at it one virtue at a time, measuring his progress carefully and adjusting his approach based on results. This is where the wisdom of the 24-inch gauge offers a profound correction to our modern mania for instant transformation. Consider for a moment an operative stonemason examining the rough stone. Does he immediately attack it from all angles and work feverishly until exhaustion? Of course not. First, he takes up his 24-inch gauge and he carefully measures the work to be done. You see, with the 24-inch gauge divided into its 24 parts, it reminds us that the art of transformation requires not just effort, but measured effort. Just as our ancient brethren used this tool to divide their workday into manageable portions, we too must learn to partition our journey of self-improvement into sustainable segments. And here's how we might apply this wisdom practically. You see, instead of trying to eliminate all of our rough edges at once, we identify and focus on one specific area for improvement. Rather than working ourselves to exhaustion, we divide our efforts into manageable daily portions. We learn to balance our time between our work, our rest, and understand that rest isn't laziness, but it's essential preparation for continued progress. We need to measure our progress not by grand gestures, but by consistent and deliberate steps forward. But perhaps most importantly, the 24-inch gauge teaches us about priorities. Notice how ancient brethren divided their time. Part for the service of God and distress-worthy brethren, part for the usual vocations, and part for refreshment and sleep. This isn't just a schedule, it's a profound statement of what truly matters in life. This brings us to a critical question. In our journey of transformation, having learned to measure our work and divide our time wisely, how do we begin the actual labor of removing these rougher edges? Well, if you've ever started a new fitness routine, you've probably done it with tremendous enthusiasm. You've hit the gym for 2 hours on your first day, only to be so sore that you couldn't move for the next week. Or perhaps you've begun learning a new language by attempting to memorize an entire textbook in one weekend, only to retain almost nothing. We've all been there, trying to force massive change through sporadic bursts of intense effort, only to find ourselves frustrated and discouraged when these dramatic attempts fail to produce lasting results. And this approach fails because it fundamentally misunderstands how lasting transformation occurs. Quick fixes and dramatic gestures might feel satisfying in the moment, but the truth is, they rarely lead to progress. More importantly, these aggressive attempts often cause us to give up entirely, convinced that we're simply not capable of achieving our goals. Consider two men trying to lose weight. The first announces he's going to completely transform his life overnight. Cuts out all carbs, runs 5 miles daily, lifting weights for 2 hours every evening. And by week 2, he's exhausted, discouraged, and ready to quit. While the second man takes a different approach. Starts with walking just 15 minutes a day and eliminating sugary drinks. And once these become habits, he gradually adds more. 6 months later, he's the one who's transformed his lifestyle without ever feeling overwhelmed. And this is where the wisdom of the common gavel becomes profoundly relevant. You see, in operative masonry, this tool isn't used for dramatic sweeping blows that might shatter the stone. Instead, it delivers measured and consistent strikes that gradually shape the rough ashlar into its perfect form. Each strike removes small imperfections, and while any single strike might seem insignificant, it's their cumulative effect that transforms the stone. The common gavel teaches us that meaningful change comes not from occasional bursts of intense effort, but from regular persistent action. Just as the operative mason shows up day after day, patiently working with his stone, we too must approach our personal development with steady and consistent effort. Each small action, each habit maintained, and each minor improvement compounds over time, and that creates lasting transformation. You see, the Common Gavel teaches us the power of persistent effort, but there remains one critical lesson in the journey to perfection. For just as the operative Mason knows that his gavel alone cannot achieve his finest work, we too must learn the wisdom of this next instrument, which transforms mere persistence into mastery. Have you ever noticed how professionals today, they bounce between side hustles and abandoning one when it becomes truly challenging? They might start building a promising e-commerce business but switch to cryptocurrency trading at the first inventory issue. Or perhaps they begin developing valuable programming skills only to pivot to drop shipping when the learning curve steepens. They mistake motion for progress. Convinced there must be an easier path to success, this pattern reveals two critical flaws in how many approach achieving their goals. First, there's the tendency to retreat at the first sign of any serious resistance, seeking an easier path rather than working through difficulty. Second, there's the misconception that being busy as long as we're hustling will somehow lead us to success. And both these assumptions lead to the same destination, our scattered efforts and unrealized dreams. So think about two different marketing professionals. The first embodies the hustle culture mindset, simultaneously running an Amazon FBA business, trying to build a YouTube channel, dabbling in NFTs, and starting a coaching business. He works incredibly hard, often pulling 16-hour days, but his energy is scattered across too many ventures. And when any single project requires deep focus or faces serious challenges, he finds himself drawn to the next exciting opportunity. Meanwhile, the second marketer takes a different approach, identifies a specific niche in digital marketing and builds his expertise there, and persists through these learning difficulties. When confronted with a challenging client, the kind that most people avoid, he leans in. He knows that these difficulties are where real expertise is forged. And when a new trend emerges, he intentionally evaluates it against his long-term goals rather than chasing every new shiny object. And this brings us to the dual wisdom in the chisel. In operative masonry, this tool teaches us two essential truths. First, it shows us that the most valuable work often requires us to persist through resistance. When the chisel meets a particularly hard section of stone, the craftsman doesn't abandon his work, he adjusts his approach. He maintains steady pressure and works through the difficulty with patience and determination. But the chisel carries a second and equally crucial lesson. Each strike must be intentional, precisely directed. It's not enough to simply keep chipping away. A master mason understands that every contact between the chisel and the stone must have purpose. It must be guided by understanding and skill. Random efforts of persistence, no matter how dedicated, will never achieve the refined results of directed and intentional effort. So let's bring these lessons together. And when we do, we arrive at a truth so fundamental, so profound, that it transforms how we understand personal development. The journey from the rough to the perfect ashlar reveals something far more significant than mere symbolic construction. It uncovers the very architecture of lasting transformation. Consider that perfect ashlar sitting in your lodge, that flawless cube with its perfectly squared angles and smoothly dressed faces. It stands as a testament to a process that many witness, but few truly understand. Its perfection wasn't achieved through dramatic gestures or occasional bursts of effort. No mason, no matter how skilled, can transform that stone with just a few mighty blows. Instead, that perfect ashlar emerged through thousands of precise intentional strikes. Each one might seem significant in isolation, a small chip here, a minor refinement there, but collectively, guided by the wisdom of our working tools, these small actions accumulated into something remarkable. And it is this profound secret that generations of masons have passed down through the ages. That true transformation never comes from dramatic gestures or quick fixes. Our ancient craft teaches us that lasting change comes only through small deliberate actions consistently applied over time. This philosophical theory is a practical methodology proven over centuries. And whether you're building a business, developing expertise in your field, improving your health, or even working on your character, these principles remain the same. Excellence emerges not from occasional bursts of intensity, but from patient accumulation of small intentional improvements.